There are marriages that go on for decades without a single goodbye, and yet without a single genuine embrace. No conflict, no arguments, just two people living beside each other like two steady breaths, but no longer truly listening to one another. The man still goes to the market, still washes the car, still pours his wife a cup of tea every morning. The woman still cooks, folds clothes, and sets the table just as she has for the past 40 years. Everything happens on time, the way it always has. But something is missing, something unspoken, presence. No one has left, but no one dares to come closer either, because some distances are not measured by physical space, but by the mornings no longer spent sitting beside each other. And then one of them begins again, not with an apology, not with grand plans, but with a simple breakfast: 2 boiled eggs, a slice of bread, a warm cup of tea placed beside a chair. No music, no words, just a quiet presence. That morning she said nothing, but she ate the eggs. And that afternoon she folded the handkerchief he had left on the chair, something she hadn't done in many months. Do you believe that a single boiled egg in the morning could take the place of an apology that's been held in for decades? That after 60, people don't need grand gestures to love again, just someone willing to sit down, pour the tea, and look at them with eyes that once knew how to love. Sometimes the only thing missing in a marriage is not love, but a small table, 2 chairs, and an unhurried meal. Mr. Howard, 72 years old, long retired, lives with his wife in a small house on the outskirts of the city. He is not seriously ill. His heart is strong. His blood pressure is a bit high, but manageable. The children are grown, married, and still visit on weekends. Looking in, he seems like a fine man. But he was the one who came to the doctor and quietly said, "I don't feel like myself anymore." Nothing major had happened, no arguments, no breakups. But every morning the house felt covered in a thin mist. She still made tea. He still took his morning walk and came back. But they no longer sat together like they used to. No more glances of care, no more words of thanks for breakfast. Just the same old routines, hollowed by time. One day, for reasons even he didn't fully know, he woke up earlier than usual. He boiled 2 eggs, sliced the bread, poured the tea. He didn't wake her up, didn't say a word, just placed everything on the table, then sat down as if he'd never missed a single breakfast. For the first time in many years, they had breakfast together. They didn't say much, but as they ate, she turned, picked up the salt shaker, and gently added a pinch to his plate, and he gave a soft nod. That moment had no sound, but the room suddenly felt warmer. It wasn't the eggs that healed. It was him, the husband who had been silent for so long, choosing to start something kind. Not with words, but with a small act. And the most special thing was, he started just in time, when she still had just enough quiet hope left to wait. Even though she didn't say it, even though she didn't dare to hope anymore, she was still there, just waiting for someone willing to turn back. There are couples who live together for more than 40 years without a major fight. No infidelity, no separation, no clear rupture. They still call each other by their familiar names, still eat dinner together, still watch the evening news. But silently, somewhere along the way, they've grown apart. Not because they stopped loving, but because the smallest gestures disappeared. No more gentle touches when pouring tea. No more, "Are you tired today?" No more glances when the other enters the kitchen. Love, when not nurtured with presence, doesn't vanish overnight, but wears away slowly, like a small stone under the rain. People often think this is just a matter of time, that after 60, this happens to everyone. Colder, more distant, less emotion. But few realize sometimes the root cause doesn't lie in the heart or the feelings, but in the most basic part of the body, blood circulation. Circulation is a silent yet vital system, like a stream running through a garden. When the water flows well, every leaf is green, every flower blooms. But when the stream weakens, the plants don't die immediately. They just dry up silently. The human body is the same. When blood no longer flows properly to all parts, life functions begin to quietly fade. After 60, the vascular system begins to change. Vessel walls lose their elasticity. The smallest capillaries, especially in the hands, feet, brain and pelvic area, become more difficult to reach. No dramatic symptoms like heart attacks or strokes, but signs begin to appear in everyday life. Mental fog, cold hands, slower reactions, fading excitement, and especially reduced sensitivity in intimacy. A 69-year-old man once confided during a consultation, "I'm not angry at my wife. I don't feel distant from her. I just feel numb. I don't want to start conversations. I can't remember what day it is. I feel like I'm behind a glass wall. I see everything, but I can't step in." That story sounds sad, but it's very common, because when blood doesn't reach the brain enough, you lose clarity. When blood doesn't reach the pelvic area, you lose the ability to respond, not just physically, but emotionally and in connection. Things that once came as naturally as breathing suddenly become effortful, then slowly forgotten. The most important thing is, this isn't irreversible aging. It's a circulatory system calling out to be revived. Your body isn't betraying you, it's sending signals. And the good news is, once the blood returns, many things you thought were lost can quietly, deeply, and emotionally come back. You don't have to wait for chest pain to think about blood. Just pay attention to the quiet distances growing between two people and ask yourself, did it all start simply because blood stopped flowing to the right places? And if that's true, then a simple breakfast, a small dish, might be the beginning of a revival. Not just for the body, but for a marriage that's been silently waiting for the blood to return. It might sound simple, but eggs, when used properly, are among the foods that can awaken the sleeping streams of circulation in those over 60. We often think of eggs as a cheap, protein-rich breakfast staple. But few know that inside an egg lies a delicate system of nutrients, ideally suited to the silent circulatory changes that come with aging. After 60, blood vessels weaken. The body then needs nutrients that are sufficient, easily absorbed, and support the areas where flow has been blocked. And surprisingly, Eggs meet all three conditions. First, eggs are rich in choline, a nutrient that protects the endothelial lining of blood vessels where nitric oxide is produced. Nitric oxide acts as the body's natural vasodilator, helping blood flow smoothly, reaching areas that have been underserved, like the brain, limbs, and pelvis. Second, eggs contain arginine, an essential amino acid that helps the body produce more nitric oxide. When eaten properly, the body not only absorbs nutrients, but also activates its own process of vascular repair. Lastly, eggs are rich in B vitamins, which aid in oxygen transport, enhance memory, clear the mind, and improve alertness. One 68-year-old patient shared that after 2 weeks of eating boiled eggs every morning, I started dreaming again. I could remember the smell of my wife's hair. That's not a miracle. That's blood returning to the places that had long been forgotten. Many people think they're losing emotions, losing interest, losing the ability to connect. But the truth is, those feelings never disappeared. They were just waiting for blood to reach the place that could awaken them. And nitric oxide, a molecule with no color, no smell, no voice, is quietly what helps you be fully present again in those intimate moments, in those silent yet warm mornings beside your partner. One egg, when truly understood and properly used, can reopen the flow, not only in the body, but in the heart. What can an egg do? For the young, it's just a simple breakfast. But for those over 60, if cooked the right way, and especially if cooked with quiet care, it can do more than nourish the body. It can revive a relationship that has slowly grown silent. Imagine a morning without hurry. He wakes up earlier than usual, not for exercise, not because of insomnia, but to enter the kitchen. He gently boils 2 eggs until they're just right. Spinach leaves are rinsed and softly steamed. Half an avocado is sliced into thin pieces. On the tray, he sprinkles a pinch of black pepper, a few grains of sea salt, not extravagant, but just enough to make everything feel thoughtfully put together. Finally, a cup of green tea is poured, lightly steaming. This is not just a meal, but a silent message. I still remember you, like your eggs soft-boiled. You once said avocado in the morning helps you feel better, and I'm here, not to say much, but to listen through my presence. A suggestion for a breakfast that supports circulation and connection. 2 soft-boiled or gently steamed eggs, a bit of spinach, rich in natural nitrates, supporting blood vessel relaxation. Half an avocado provides healthy fats that stabilize testosterone and memory. A pinch of black pepper, a little sea salt, enhances nutrient absorption. Drink with a cup of warm water or light green tea to aid circulation. There's no need to say, "I'm sorry." No need for a rehearsed, "I love you." Just sit down with your wife, pour the tea, serve the eggs, and eat slowly. That's enough. Because sometimes what a woman needs most after 60 is not a lure, but a glance that lifts, a husband who still remembers what she likes for breakfast. That breakfast is not just a time for the body to refuel, but for a partner to feel seen, still worthy of being cared for. Many marriages after 60 don't fall apart because love is gone. but because it's been too long since anyone sat together, especially at the most important time of day, morning. Harvard Health once revealed something that seems very simple. Couples who maintain the habit of eating breakfast together have up to 37% higher marital satisfaction. Interestingly, it's not about what is eaten, but about being present, consistently, kindly, without distractions. In medicine, there's a concept known as the emotional circadian rhythm, the time when body and mind are most open to connection, and morning is the most precious part of that rhythm. Just after waking, cortisol, the stress hormone, is at its lowest. The sympathetic nervous system hasn't been triggered by phone calls, news, or work. At that moment, people are more ready to listen, to love, to soften, if they can preserve a little stillness. Breakfast together, when done right, is not just a good habit. It can become a healing ritual. A kind of shared meditation between two people who once loved deeply, who weathered many storms, and are now relearning how to be present with the simplest act, sitting beside one another to share a meal. You don't need deep conversations, no need to solve major conflicts. Just pull up a chair, place a boiled egg on a plate, a slice of bread, and offer a look. One person pours the tea. One hand rests near the other. And just like that, a marriage once thought to be cooling may gently warm again, quietly yet truly. An elderly man once said, "I never said, 'I love you' to my wife in over 30 years, but she knows, because every morning I leave the egg white for her, just the way she likes it." That sentence might make the young laugh, but for someone who has lived through a lifetime of marriage, it's the simplest and deepest form of love. Science can explain the role of nitric oxide, of blood circulation, of serotonin and oxytocin in breakfast. But there's one thing science can't measure: the feeling of being truly seen in the morning by someone you love. No one is too old to start breakfast. No one is too late to look at the person beside them and say, if only through a small gesture, "I made this for you, and I'm still here." Mr. Howard never said, "I love you," for 18 years. Not because he didn't love, not because he forgot, but because he no longer knew how. After so many years of togetherness, of care, of surviving beside each other, that phrase had grown too big, too distant, too clumsy to say out loud. But that morning, he did something else. Not a vacation, not a bouquet of flowers, just he fried an egg. Exactly the way she once liked it. No yolk, no pepper, just a little chopped mint. He remembered not because she reminded him, but because after all those years, every time she made eggs for herself, she always prepared them that way, quietly. He didn't wake her up, didn't say, "I made this for you." He simply placed the plate in her usual spot. She came into the kitchen. She saw it. She said nothing, just sat down, ate every bite of the egg, calmly, without asking why. That afternoon, while watching the evening news together, she sat a little closer to him. Not shoulder to shoulder, not arm in arm, just the space between them shrank a little, and he noticed That closeness didn't crash in like a wave, but returned like a gentle warmth. Soft, yet real. There was nothing miraculous in that, no magic, just a breakfast made with care. And sometimes, care, repeated enough, has the power to heal more deeply than any apology. Because after 60, people don't need a new romance. They just need a reason to return to their old love with a new heart. Love doesn't vanish, but it needs something to recall it, to remind it, to keep the flow unblocked between two who once loved. And sometimes that something can be a small plate of eggs, prepared just like a memory. It's no coincidence that small acts like cooking, pulling out a chair, pouring tea, trigger oxytocin, dopamine, and nitric oxide in the body. Science has shown the repetition of meaningful actions can rebuild the connections between brain, heart, emotion, and even desire. An old man once said, "I don't know how to show affection like young people, but every morning I make eggs the way she likes. I think she understands." That's not a declaration of love, but in the quiet world of those who've spent a lifetime together, it says more than any words ever could. You don't have to change your whole life to warm your marriage again. You just need to repeat kindness at the right time for the right person in the right way. A breakfast, a plate of eggs, a look willing to open up, and someone brave enough to sit beside you even when they don't know what to say. It's not a miracle, it's love. When it's old enough to know, silence can be the most honest language. Not everyone needs to speak, and not every silence in marriage is a distance. Some couples live together for decades, survive every storm, share a bed, a meal, yet find there's little left to say. Not because love is gone, but because it's become so familiar. It no longer needs a name. But familiarity does not mean sufficiency. Sometimes what's missing lies in a single moment, when two people sit down together, not out of obligation, not from habit, but simply because they want to be there. And strangely, that moment often comes at breakfast. Breakfast is when we return to our natural rhythm. Not too much noise, not yet pulled into the day's worries, news, or pace. It's when the body begins to awaken. And if someone is beside you, the heart can awaken too. One chooses soft-boiled eggs, not for themselves, but because they know the other is prone to stomach discomfort. One pours more tea without asking, because years of living together have taught them each other's habits in every gesture. No words of love, no apologies, just understanding, wrapped in tiny, mindful acts. On some days, eating breakfast together, in silence, is the closest two people can be. Not because there's nothing left to say, but because presence is enough. A glance that doesn't break, a quiet breath in the kitchen, a slow moment in a fast world. If you've ever lived in a home where every sound is short, small, and fast, try cooking breakfast once, placing the eggs on the table, and sitting down without saying anything, because maybe in that silence your partner will feel seen, not by ears, but by the heart. And perhaps that is enough to keep a marriage alive. You don't need to change everything. You don't need grand plans. You don't need to start with a heavy conversation about how we've grown apart. Maybe the first and only thing you need to do is cook an egg. Just one egg, a slice of bread, a bit of greens, a warm cup of tea, a breakfast that's simple, unspoken, and pressure-free. And sit down beside your life partner, the one you once loved with all your heart, the one who walked with you through hardship, raised the children with you, shared the same fan during power outages, ate bland soup when money was tight, the one who used to mean everything, but because of life, time, and prolonged silence has slowly become the person you live with. Not because love ended, but because no one knows where to begin again. So let breakfast be the beginning, not to solve everything, but to recreate a small space where two people simply need to be present for nothing else but presence. If you still find it hard to speak today, let food speak for you. Sometimes the right egg on the right morning can be more powerful than a late apology. If you've ever sighed watching your partner eat alone, remember, you still have a chance. If you've ever thought, at this age, what can change anymore? Remember, big changes always start with a small gesture. And if you've ever felt like you have nothing left to give, try giving kindness in silence. Breakfast doesn't require you to be strong. It just needs your care, your presence, and your consistency. Day 1 may be awkward. Day 2 may be quiet. But by day 3, you may feel something soften. A look, a hand pouring tea, a serving of greens, a napkin gently placed. Tiny details, but they may reconnect the emotional bloodstream. Try it, not for anyone else, but for yourself, someone who has lived long enough to know that love isn't in grand emotions, but in intentional choices, repeated with patience. Share with me if you plan to prepare an intentional breakfast after many years. What will you cook? Soft-boiled eggs? Plain porridge with a bit of fried shallot? Or simply a cup of tea, just the way they like? And if you've ever had a meal that made your heart quiet, then warm again, leave a comment. I read every word. Because each story is not just experience, it's light. Finally, if you want to continue this journey with me, hearing stories of revival after 60, learning how the body, emotions, and love can come alive through small habits, follow this channel. I will return and walk beside you, because you are never too late to come back. And your body, your heart, has always been waiting for one small signal from you. Maybe tomorrow, maybe this very morning. Start with an egg. Goodbye.